Welcome to the Marketing Trench. Today we're going to be taking questions from the audience, and actually we've put together some questions that we've received already in the past after episodes. People who had streamed sent us in questions, and so we're actually going to be making this a regular feature about once a month. We plan to tackle some audience questions, and so if you have any, go ahead and post. If you're watching live, go ahead and post your questions. Otherwise, we're just going to go ahead and dive right into the questions that we have lined up. So let's start.
Boom.
All right. So how do I know if I'm using the right CRM for my business? And this is a great question. Ricardo, do you want to riff on this one for a second? Because you probably get that question more than any of us.
So I think I did the tally. At my previous role, I did like 398 appointments, which is pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Each of those appointments, one of the first questions we ask is, what are you doing to nurture your past client database? Because as we've all talked about over and over and over again, HomeBot is one of our favorite products. But the secondary question is, how do you manage your database right now? That was always the secondary question. And it's kind of surprising that most people, they're like, I just use my phone, or I just use an Excel spreadsheet.
Outlook.
Yeah, or I just use Outlook. Yeah. And that is, and I'm not saying, like, I get it. I totally get it. Real estate CRMs are hard because I always say the reason they're so hard is because they all have or pitch a different set of features. We're the best because of this. We're the best because of this. So they all have different feature sets.
Yeah.
And then they all use different language to effectively communicate the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what makes them hard. And then you're trying to tell an agent to stop or break the habit of running their business a certain way. They've been running that way for 2, 4, 10 years. Mm-hmm. You're trying to get them to, like, overnight break their habit of running their business one way and telling them to run it this other way. But, oh, by the way, there's this huge hill you got to climb to learn how any of this works. And I think that's what makes most CRMs hard. So the thing that I always say is, what CRM should I use for my business? Don't shop based on features. Just don't. Don't shop based on features. Start by, number one, cleaning up your database and segmenting your database. So, Dustin, I think you helped us with a couple of like sample templates, a HomeBot Excel spreadsheet. I had a Lion Desk sample Excel spreadsheet. Literally go old school and organize your data into a spreadsheet to clean it up, right? You can run it through a service like NeverBounce to get rid of any emails that are going to bounce back and whatnot, so that you're uploading a clean database and you're basically setting yourself up for success when you're sending emails out. You don't want a bunch of bounced back emails. Mm-hmm. And then create a column that says the column title should be tags. And in that column, start to go through line item by line item. Who is this person? Where were they looking? Who is this person? Where were they looking? So that you have your farm tag, for a specific farm area, you might tag it Costa Mesa, potential sellers or seller prospects, right? If you have buyers that you met at an open house, you're going to tag them open house, the city they were looking in and the number of beds and baths they might have been looking for. So open house, Costa Mesa, 2-bed,
I think we take a lot of this stuff for granted. I kind of want to take a half a step back here. You're talking about the what, and I kind of want to drill down on the why real quick. So there's a difference between data storage and data mining, right? So if it's in your Outlook, you're storing it. It's there. You can go back, you can retrieve it if you remember how to find it. And what we're talking about when we talk about a CRM is just storing that data in a software program that allows you to sort through and segment that data and do specific things with specific groups. So for instance, one tag might be home buyer, one tag might be home owner. And I mean, at a very, very rudimentary, basic level. So you're not going to send find out what your home's worth email or video to somebody that's a home buyer,
to a renter.
To a renter. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it really is that simple. And, the old joke about the old joke and the most common answer to this is what is the best CRM? It's the one that you'll use. But I want to unpack that even a little bit more and say, it's okay to start with training wheels. Most CRMs can export the data as a CSV file, which you can get into an Excel spreadsheet or you can import into any other CRM. I would start probably with maybe member benefits for your association, and that's LionDesk was a good one. But if you want to graduate to something that's a little more powerful and a little bit more flexible, look for something with a great community. And I don't intend to pitch Follow Up Boss, especially not because you're there, but the reality is that's one of the better and easier to use CRMs. But there's a great community around it. It's been around forever. There's a great community around it. There's great training and support around it. And that's important. I think that's important. I would almost say that
your webinar guy is a bit iffy.
I would almost say that if you're making a decision at a conference, you've made the wrong decision because you're not thinking about it correctly. Yeah. You need the need first, and then you find the tool. And that's what Ricardo was just talking about. Is they go out and they pitch the functionality. And they're essentially saying, if you run your business this way, we have the tools built into our CRM to be able to accommodate that.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot of CRMs are sold on FOMO. It's like, if you don't buy this software, you're going to miss out on all this business. And that's really not how you approach the use of a CRM. You do exactly what Ricardo said when he was on camera, and you first identify what you want to do with your data. And we mentioned a couple of things. You have some communication to homeowners, and you have some communication to home buyers. And then within those segments, you probably can even narrow those segments down even further. Like, this buyer I met at an open house, so they're probably in market. They're a little bit further down in the sales process. This one I got from a Facebook lead ad. So yes, I have a phone number and I might have an email, but they're probably don't have the same type of relationship with them. So CRM is a fantastic, and I would say necessary tool to scale your business. But I think before you even start on that path, you need to understand what you're going to do with the CRM, and then you find the tool that's going to be the easiest to accomplish those things with.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, Scott, that you pointed out that you had the saying once that really stuck with me. You said, what was it? Having owning a hammer doesn't make you a carpenter. It just makes you a guy who owns a hammer, right? And these, to answer this question, how do I know if I'm using the right CRM for my business? If I were to pull one thing out of what Scott just said, it would be, it solves the problems that you currently have. And that's it, right? And then all the other bell and whistle stuff, to Scott's point, especially about, choosing a CRM at a conference. Yeah, that probably is. I had never really thought about it till you just said it, but that's probably the absolute worst place to make that. Yeah, because you're going to be popped up on all sorts of ideas that probably just aren't a good fit for who you are and how you actually do things.
But you don't want to date that. That's an Instagram filter.
Your shiny object syndrome is like at its peak when you're walking through those conference halls.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's probably one of the more important questions and one of the more common questions that we get. And it really, I think to me, it just comes down to being able to scale your business. If you're totally cool and totally comfortable just being a one-man show and handling everything on your cell phone, then great. But if you want to scale, and if you want assistance, and if you want virtual assistants, and if you want to hire people if you want to learn how to scale and grow your business and build automation into some of the communication in your business, you need a CRM.
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
Awesome.
What else do we got? That was a great question.
The next one. So everyone in my office is mailing flyers to their farm. Mail seems like a waste of money to me. How should I decide whether to do what everyone else in my office is doing as opposed to doing my own thing? Who wants to tackle this one?
I'll start with it. I don't think it's a waste of money if you think it out. I think mail is, and there's a funny thing that happened with mail is mail their mailboxes almost got empty when email was invented. Right? You just don't get as much mail, and you don't get as much junk mail. So if you're sending mail, people are still looking at it, and there's probably less mail for them to go through. But I think if you're not tying that direct mail into something online, if you don't have a QR code on there,
or text for info number,
a text for info number, and I almost just want to shoot myself in the face for even mentioning QR codes because I'm the hugest QR code hater. I thought years ago I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But COVID made it the single most convenient way to do almost anything. Like, I like them now. Like, I'm mad if I don't see a QR code. And plus back in the day, you had to download a specific app, but all phones have it built in now. You can just point your camera to QR code and it'll pull it up. So I wouldn't be so concerned about doing what everybody else is doing because I do think mail, if it's well thought out, and if you're bridging that gap, the challenge with mail is you don't have any feedback loops. So you have to build feedback loops into your direct mail. You don't know who's looking at it. You don't know who's doing anything.
It's because you don't have that feedback loop that it's easier to assume, like you're quick to assume this isn't working. Let me stop doing it.
Right.
But it's that it has to be consistent. It has to be persistent. Mailing twice to a farm and thinking, oh, this doesn't work is probably a bad idea. You may as well throw that budget out the window.
Ricardo, would you say it's safe to say that some of the highest producing teams, real estate teams that you know of, do a pretty good job of mailing their farm every single month? Consistently,
every single month. One realtor out of an office here spends about $15,000 a month just on her print to her farm. She's the number one agent in her market, in her farm.
And I guarantee you she's getting more than one listing a month on average because she's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So again, I think if you're sending out flyers and there's no feedback loops, you're not sending them anywhere. If you're not giving the consumer anything of value and you do it once and you're going to determine whether it's an effective strategy or not, then I wouldn't worry about whether you should mail or not. I would worry about whether you should stay in real estate or not. I mean, seriously, it's you have to understand the medium. It is effective and it can be impactful if you're using it properly. That would be my answer to that.
So go ahead. Ricardo.
No, go ahead, Dustin.
So I would actually tackle this from a slightly different perspective. I do agree with a lot of what Scott has said there, pretty much all of it. Another way to approach this or diagnose the question is two things. First of all, when I hear this question, I hear a fear of wasting money. You're going to waste money, right? Now it may not be on mailing, but you could just as easily waste money on Facebook ads or anything else if you don't have a strategy behind it. And I would say that you're probably, if you do this long enough and you look back 10 years and you say, okay, like, was every spend perfect? No, you're going to identify things that are a waste of money. So don't be afraid to waste money. Like that fear of wasting money could hold you back from really great opportunities.
It's pretty debilitating.
Yeah. So just, I want to put a flag in that real quick.
I want to replace the word waste, because it is an investment. And if you're making an investment, you should have some idea of what you're investing in and have some idea of what the return on investment looks like and what period of time that's going to take.
Yeah, but I mean, that can be pretty abstract, right? Because you can get different data points from different websites, or you can get different data points even anecdotally in your own office. And, if I think if you have a strategy in place, and even if it results in zero ROI for whatever reason, right? Because sometimes it just doesn't work for you, you can look back on that and say, well, that ended up not being a good use of funds, but I made the best decision I knew how to make at that time.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying. I don't think you should. Let me put it like this. I think probably that 7 Series you have in the parking lot's a bigger waste of money, but you do you. The other thing I would say, though, is if you're a new agent and this sounds like the kind of question a new agent asks. So I'm going to make an assumption here and say you're a new agent.
Yeah.
And if you're a new agent asking these questions, if you don't have any kind of habits in place, it does not hurt to go through the motions that your broker is training everybody else to go through. Now, is it going to be the thing that ultimately works for you? Who knows, right? But you have no habits. You have no disciplines. Your broker, conversely, is probably not green. If they were, they probably wouldn't be a broker, right? Probably. So put yourself in a brokerage where there are highly successful agents. Put yourself in a brokerage where the highly successful agents are crediting the broker, and then just try what the broker has you try. Like, actually just give it a good shot, like a good faith effort. And you'll learn what works for you, but going through proven motions is better than just floundering and saying, oh, wow, these people all seem dumb.
Well, and what I would also say in the perfect example is I don't know if Ricardo's thinking of the same person that I'm thinking of, but sometimes some of these old school teams that have been around for a really long time, you'll use that as an excuse. Well, yeah, but they've been around for a very long time and everybody already knows them. But don't leave it there. Don't necessarily leave it right there. Talk to them and find out what they're doing. You may do it a little differently, but at least see what they did. And I would say that in almost all cases, and especially to your point, Dustin, a broker would not ask you to do something that's not going to make them money. Right. Their entire goal is for you to make as much money as quickly as possible. So don't just wholesale dismiss it just as soon as it's introduced. Talk to them, see how they're going to use it, because you may be new to the industry. You may be in your 30s and you go to this 65-year-old real estate agent that nails these things out, and just don't dismiss it so quickly. Look at what they're doing and recognize that it worked, but because the way that they used it, it took this long to work it. So what could you bring to it? What kind of twist can you do to modernize this strategy? Because I would consider it one of the basics of real estate. I think you have to have some sort of physical material in front of homeowners, whether you're doing flyer drops or you're doing postcard campaigns. I think it's something that you can't ignore. 100% of the people are not 100% online. They're just not.
Awesome. Next one. I think we covered this one in pretty good detail in our last episode. Maybe not. I'm going to take your advice and start making videos. What camera, mic, and lights do you recommend?
I like when we had Alan Christian on here. I've been kind of following him and what he's doing. He uses his phone and he goes out into the community. Goes out into the community. He did a great one the other day that I think anybody could do right now. He went to a new construction project. He actually has a borrower. He's in the mortgage industry. He has a client who the builder has raised the price 3 times since they've been in contract because of building materials and because the cost of materials have increased. And I've heard this a couple of times. So he told that story standing in front of a partially constructed home in a new building community. I I think when it comes to video, there's different strokes for different folks. And I think there's a ton of pressure if you're trying to do something like the three of us are doing right now, which is having mics and cameras and lighting and sitting in front of the camera. I really think the low-hanging fruit for real estate agents, especially if you're working a farm, is a selfie stick in your cell phone. And just get used to talking about the community, sharing.
Lavalier mic.
Absolutely a good mic, a lav mic that's going to cost you less than $15 on Amazon, and go to the small businesses in the area, introduce people to the community, go to the dog park and talk to people about the community. I think that's the most powerful thing you can do.
Even that 3 campaigns ebook we put together a while back, you can take that content and use it as your script for your videos.
Yeah. So listen, if you came from the film industry and you decided to start doing real estate, you're probably going to be more comfortable with the equipment. But if you're not familiar with the equipment, like I wasn't familiar with video and cameras, and I wasted a ton of money on a bunch of stuff I never needed and never used, or used for a very short period of time till I realized it wasn't the right thing. I don't think that's I think I'm a prime example of how you shouldn't do it. and if you're, start small. The video is what's important. The camera's not as important. Lav mic absolutely is, though. That's great advice. Anybody add to that?
Listen to our episode from last week.
Yeah.
And look at Alan Christian's one on what he's doing with cell phone video. Is really, really amazing.
Last week's video is titled "The Ultimate Remote Meeting Guide." So, because I don't know when you're going to listen to this, so I don't know chronologically when it's going to get posted. So look on our YouTube page for that, and we break down all kinds of. But Scott's right. I mean, the best equipment. This is like the CRM. Honestly, it's the equipment that solves the problem you have, and it's the one you're going to use, right? And so, if realistically you're good at using your cell phone, use your cell phone. The camera's pretty darn good. Just start doing it.
Yeah. I'm just starting out in the industry. I've got $2,500 to spend to get my name out there and get a deal, either listing or buy side. What's the best way for me to spend this money?
Cocaine and strippers.
Wow. Okay, we'll get that in post editing, hopefully.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's really hard to prove strippers' income, so I probably wouldn't go that direction. A lot of cash transactions going on there.
It's the starter kit for Newport Beach agents.
Wow. Okay. So are we going to actually answer this one?
Yeah, let's answer it, because
awesome.
that's a hard question for me to answer. Scott, I'm curious to hear your response to this.
You're curious to see what I'm going to make up on the spot. Okay, let me see. So $2,500 is not a small budget.
Here's what I wouldn't do, and I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but here's what I wouldn't do. I had a lender call me yesterday. He already has a great LeadPops website. So we're familiar with LeadPops. LeadPops builds amazing websites, and you can create some pretty awesome marketing funnels to generate buyer and seller leads. So he called me and he said, hey, what do you think of Commissions Inc? I just got off the phone with the sales guy. They're offering me a really sweet deal. I need to start generating leads for my business, and this platform looks like it does it all. So I'm really interested. What do you think about it? And it was just this moment of like, okay, hold on a second. You already have an amazing website. And he goes, I don't have a website. I'm like, go to your website. Let's pull up LeadPops. Like LeadPops gives you a pretty awesome website. They're like, yeah, but theirs does this. And I'm like, okay, let me show you how we can create those funnels in LeadPops. So the technology doesn't matter. I keep saying LeadPops and I keep saying Commissions Inc. Like, take the technology out for a minute.
Yeah.
He's already got an amazing platform. Moving to another platform isn't going to solve the problem. And it's an expensive platform, mind you. So I think that scenario is all too common. I have a $2,500 budget. I want to buy this really expensive platform because I think I'm going to get a listing out of it. Like it's false.
Yeah. So here's where I would probably go with this. If you've a $2,500 a month budget is a pretty good budget. If you, this sounds like a real estate agent, they're looking for a listing or buy side. I would take about $500 of that, and I would take out some of the top agents in other markets even that maybe work for the same company that you work for. You work for Keller Williams, maybe find somebody outside your market. And I would learn how to farm, because $2,500 a month, and you don't have to, I almost want to say print flyers and door knock, right? But it doesn't have to just be flyers, and you don't have to just door knock. You need a strategy, and you need to know how to go out there and how to talk to people. But if you're just getting started in the industry, I don't think you should be looking at online ads and things like that. I think you need to get out there and get face to face with people in your community, figure out what your farm is. I remember when like I've known people that are brand new in the industry, and what they actually did is sat down with the title rep and went through and figured out which farm had the highest turnover, right? So like you could tell what the turnover was, and what farms probably had the highest probability of people selling or buying. And I would that's probably where I would go, honestly. And it's the hardest thing to do. And it's a thing that nobody wants to do. They want technology to just throw deals in their lap. But real estate is a very face to face. I think it still is. I don't think everything is going to go Zillow and iBuyer. I still think there's a large percentage of people out there. I mean, that's probably, and the other thing, again, I would buy lunches for as many other agents as you can and find out what they're doing and how much they're spending, and just see what resonates with you. Like, you might not want to be a door knocker, but you might find somebody that says, yeah, I've spent $2,500 a month for 12 months. And then the following 12 months, I closed 20 deals, right? You would do that. You would say, okay, I would do that if I know that it's going to take this much of an investment to get this return. And that's kind of what door knocking is. If you went out there and door knocked every month for 12 months, you would more than pay for itself, and you would kickstart your business in the following 12 months. It's impossible to not work if you actually do it.
Okay, so I'm going to, again, take this a little bit differently. If you have, I'm going to assume you don't have $2,500 a month. I'm going to go in a different case, because I think Scott gave you some really great advice. If you have $2,500 a month, if you have $2,500 to get you from A to B, like from right now to your first buy side or listing side, here's what I would do. I would first of all get the essentials. So get business cards and get letterheads and get some envelopes, and you can do all of that for a couple $100. But you're going to want that, right? Maybe even like a thank you card or something, so that you can follow up, send a little, you meet somebody in real life, you can send a quick handwritten thank you card. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Here's a copy of my here's my business card in it. Like those kinds of little gestures that won't cost you a whole lot.
They're pretty huge.
They're pretty huge. They make a big impression.
Well, investing in your brand.
Yeah. Right? And those are great sort of brand starter kits. So now let's assume that you've spent $500, maybe $750. Okay. So now you have $1,750, right? So what do you do with the remaining part of that? Well, do a lot of free things, right? Get your iPhone that you're already paying for, and you're not counting it here, but you're already paying for it, and start doing Facebook Lives. Start doing Q&A YouTube Lives through your phone, right? That kind of stuff, creating the content, building up your YouTube page. That's all free. Facebook is free. Take advantage of any free thing you can. You're a member of your MLS, right? Your local real estate organization, whatever it is. In our case, we're in Orange County. Ricardo and I are in Orange County. So that's OCAR, right? Or PWR. You're already paying for that. That's probably not wrapped into this either. You probably didn't include it, but there's a whole bunch of great free stuff there, CRMs, etc. Start using all of that, and then spend your money multiply every dollar you spend. So the way that you do that is you find people, industry partners, normally lenders, sometimes escrow, depending on how you do it. Title guys can't do this in California, but people who can co-host events with you, right? You've got a mutual audience you're targeting, and you want to host a first-time buyers seminar, first-time sellers seminar. What's my local market doing cocktail hour, right? And it doesn't have to be fancy. You can run to Costco or the equivalent, pick up giant bottles of wine, but put them in decanters that you bought from Home Goods for $5, so nobody knows what the wine is that they're pouring into, whatever glasses you got, plastic glasses you got. And, just have like simple, low cost couple get-togethers, maybe $250 a pop, right? And just again, record this stuff. It's more content for you. Put it out there. Let people see you active in the community. You can easily do that for 6 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get a listing if you are showing up places for free, if you're doing a ton of content creation online for free. And when people meet you and you tell them you're in real estate, you hand them a business card and you write them a thank you note, right? Those are the moves I would make with my $2,500.
So those are brilliant, Dustin, and I would build on those as far as the in-person meetings. I think that's a super powerful strategy right now as everybody's starting to come out of lockdown and COVID's kind of dissipating a little bit. A lot of the fear is Total Wine was a store that we used a lot. That's actually free. And if you can get a dozen people to show up, they'll serve wine for free. They'll do a wine tasting. Another great strategy is go to local restaurants in your community. Sometimes these restaurants owners, sometimes you can book a room, and sometimes they'll give you discounted food, but you're also introducing people to them, especially if it's a restaurant that's coming out of COVID and trying to kickstart their business again. You're bringing a dozen or 2 dozen people from the community over to their restaurant. So yeah, I like your answer way better than mine, Dustin. Good
Well,
job.
and by the way, you can charge people. Like, people won't be totally turned off for a $10 or even $5.
Includes lunch.
Includes lunch and learn, and that sort of thing. And if you charge people, that actually allows you in California to partner with companies like mine, because now there aren't kickbacks happening all over the place. Like everyone's got skin in the game. It's all equal. You're all going for the same demo, and you're all putting your fair share in. You can do that kind of stuff, but that's how you multiply your money, is exactly what Scott's saying. You just find these people who also have an interest, and you all put your dollars in.
Well, and if you're in Irvine, I heard Lighthouse Escrow has a really cool platform that you could use for free.
That's awesome.
We do have ways for you to have people in a very nice location.
Yes, we've used it.
Yeah.
I forgot where I got this stat. It was either NAR or Zillow's latest profile of buyers and sellers, or call action, one of those three. But it was a stat that said 43% of buyers drive directly to a listing after finding a home online. So one of the first things they do is they usually call the number on the sign. They don't pick up. They want to get a hold of the listing agent because they think I'll get a deal if I work directly with the listing agent, right? The next thing they do is they start to Google if they can't get a hold of the agent. We're instant gratification creatures. We want an answer right now. We want to speak to someone right now. So the next thing they do is they Google best realtor near me or best realtor in Costa Mesa. So one of the things I would do is I would take a bulk of that budget and do Google local service ads. So in addition to having your Google My Business all nicely, optimized, those Google local service ads, when people Google best realtor near me or best realtor in Orange County, you're going to come up at the very top. And it's going to be your photo, your Google My Business profile, how many 5-star ratings you have, and all that sort of jazz. And you'll be one of the top 3 featured agents in that list. So it's a newer feature, but it's one that I would definitely invest in. And then Google has this awesome calculator that says, for this budget, you can expect to get these many calls per month. So I think I did it for Tustin, and for about $200, you would get, like Google estimates, you'll get 6 to 9 presumably come list me calls, or I'd like to make an offer on a house.
Mm.
So I think that's one area where I would definitely invest some of this budget. I wouldn't start with an all-out website. I don't think you need a big, fancy, expensive website, even though I've been building websites for the last decade. So definitely wouldn't go there, but I would build your brand, build your sort of digital footprint and whatnot.
I like that.
Let's see what's next. We kind of covered this one too. I'm terrible at writing listing descriptions. Do you have any advice on how I can write better listing descriptions?
I think we need some advice on how you can spell better.
Why,
Ricardo? Descriptions.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sorry, couldn't let that go.
I'm dyslexic. Yeah, conversion.ai. We did a whole episode on it. If you're terrible at writing listing descriptions, I'm not even going to tell you to go take a copywriting course. I'm just going to tell you to get conversion.ai.
Yeah.
For $25 or $29 a month, it'll pimp out all of your listing descriptions in less than a minute. So you don't have to worry about it.
Yep. Yeah, that's an easy one. That's the only answer.
When I'm in a listing presentation and I'm asked if I'll discount my commission, I always falter. I try to defend my commission, but I feel like I sound weak. Any advice?
I mean, the way you ask that question, you do sound weak.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Well, I would almost say that, I don't know. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong here.
You're wrong.
I almost want to. Let's see if I'm more wrong after this.
You're probably going to be super wrong.
I almost want to say that the reason that may be coming up is because the person you're talking to is not fully grasping the value of having you as part of that transaction. Like, I guess I would say listing presentation. Maybe you're using a canned listing presentation. Maybe you didn't put a bunch of thought into it. Maybe you're using the exact same thing that real estate agents have been using for free for the last 30 years. But I almost also want to say that consumers today are geared towards asking for a discount, because I can go online and look at all of the I can look up all the properties. What exactly are you doing for me? Mm-hmm. Right? It feels like you need to address that elephant in the room. Like if you get it on every single listing, it's almost like you address that. Listen, I know a lot of people think you don't need a real estate agent anymore because you can just go on Zillow. Let me kind of lay out some of the pitfalls that I can help you avoid if you take that particular path. I don't know. There's not an easy answer to this one, because I'd say 95% of it is confidence, or maybe 95% of it is preparation and 5% is confidence. But there's this formula of confidence versus confidence and preparation that will make people not wonder why they're paying you so much.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a crack at it. I think Scott's right. People are trained to ask for discounts because of lots of reasons. Zillow, people just hear about it, whatever. So I think that, I think that you need to go in understanding that that's the case and not be offended when it happens. I also do agree with Scott that if somebody's asking it, really the way that you should interpret that question is, what is the value that you're providing to me such that I should give you X, right? 3%. $12,000 to $15,000, whatever that case might be, right? And you need to have a good answer to that question before you walk into that listing presentation. If you can't tell a third grader what it is that you're doing, then you're probably not ready to defend, in my opinion, your value proposition. But don't be afraid to really lay it out. right? So some things you can lay out. If you're doing photography, talk about the fact that you have to schedule the photography, that you it's not only a scheduling thing, but you show up with a photographer, you're there the entire time, you're coaching them on what photos to take. You then go through a whole selection process. You know how to present it on a place like Zillow, right? Like really flesh out kind of all the steps. It's not just like, oh, I get photos taken, right? Because that's not how it feels to you. Like you've got work to do around that. So explain all that work, right? Because again, you want people to understand the time that you're going to be putting in. Another thing you can do is explain the risk you're taking. There's this assumption that all these people in a listing presentation have that their home is going to sell. But we all know that that's not necessarily the case. There are a lot of reasons why homes don't sell. One reason is because the person selling the home might be an a-hole who pisses everybody off. Right? They come up with unreasonable requests, or they decide, oh, I'm afraid to sell my home because I don't have a place to buy, whatever. You need to explain to them that you're taking all the financial risk. People forget this, right? Yeah. Like who pays for the photographer? It's not like the photographer gets paid in escrow. I would know, right? You pay for the photographer. You pay for the videographer. You pay for the flyers. Probably. I hope you pay for your own flyers. You pay for all of the stuff that goes into selling that home. And if the home doesn't sell, the seller is out $0, but you are out everything you spent. That's a lot of risk.
I would also say that you've already vetted all of those services, because whether I order the photographer or flyers or not, or you do it, you're going to go out there and try to figure this out for the very first time. I've been doing this for this long. I have this relationship with these people. They do great work. We're very successful with all of these vendors that I've lined up. But no, you're right though. I mean, you really are going to have to sit down and unpack your value proposition. And quite frankly, if you get at the end of the list and you can honestly say, I wouldn't pay me to do all of these things, then maybe you need to reconsider the services that you offer and the cost and the price that you charge. Because there's also an argument there that if you, instead of doing a completely done for you, if you have a done with you tranche, that's totally okay. I can do all of this, but if you want me to just help you with this, I can do these things for this much. That's also another thing to consider, because if it's happening all of the time, or if it's happening consistently, I would say that's probably the single most important question that you need to ask of yourself is, would you pay you to do what you just said you would do?
And here's a way you can know if you have the right level of confidence when you're entering the listing presentation. If somebody asks you the question about discounting your fees and you present your value proposition, and at the end of that presentation, you say, if you would prefer somebody who charges less, I can introduce you to a couple of agents and a service, right? And you darn well mean it. Like you're like, hey, if at the end of the day, you don't want to pay me 3% for all of this stuff, and the most important thing to you is paying somebody 1.5% or 1%, I will gladly introduce you to people you can do that to, right? And by the way, I do this all the time because I get hit by real estate agents all the time with, can you discount your escrow fees? Can you pay for my flyers? Can you give me a kickback of some kind, right? The answer to those questions about kickbacks is no, especially for compliance reasons. And the answer to discounts is almost always no. And what I'll tell them is, hey, I get it. If your clients don't want to pay escrow fees, I will introduce you to some really great escrow officers who work at companies that don't charge a seller side escrow fee. And I'll tell you what, agents' floors almost always, their jaws almost always hit the floor, right? Because it's like, whoa, you're serious. It's like, yeah, I'm that serious. Like, I know what we do. I know the value of it. I know who it's good for. And if you're not that person, fine. No harm, no foul. Like, I don't think less of you. I hope you don't think less of me. It's just, we're not a good fit. You're more concerned about saving money than paying for the thing that I can do really well. So I will gladly help you save money, and we can both go our own ways. That's the level of confidence I feel like you want to have in a listing presentation. And that's a good indicator of whether you have confidence.
So
And
somebody,
it's almost no, I was just going to say it. I know it sounds cliche to say you get what you pay for, but if it wasn't true, it wouldn't be a saying.
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
I certainly believe it.
Yeah.
Somebody shared the latest profile of home sellers and their selling experience. So the method used to sell home, et cetera, whatever. It showed that record numbers of home buyers and sellers are not only working with a real estate professional, but they're paying full price, or they're working with a full service agent.
Oh, what is it, the report?
Yeah. So most sellers are working not only with agents, but with full service agents, about 80 to 90%.
I mean, listen, I would say that the single most valuable thing any of us have in our lives is time. And that's really what you're doing, is you're paying somebody so that you're not investing your time and energy into learning these things, doing these things yourself. And you know, that's a big part of what you're doing, is you're saying you're paying for my time for this, to do all of this stuff so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Your life isn't interrupted. What report is that, Ricardo?
I got it.
Like
that was just a screenshot, so I have to look up the actual.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me though.
Yeah, it's a long like Twitter thread.
Okay, well, if it's on Twitter, it must be true.
All right.
You have any more?
I'm new to the industry and just joined a brokerage that doesn't offer much training, but has a great commission split. What should I do first? And then what should I do after that?
Quit this brokerage, go to one. Well, if you're new to the industry and you're chasing the commission, but you don't have any training or mentorship or help, then I think you're thinking about this the wrong way.
You know, Dustin and I had a meeting recently with a new agent, and you know, the best thing that you can do is find a mentor.
Yep.
Join a team or find a mentor.
Yep.
What I would do is, if I was a newly licensed agent, and the way I said this before, is I'm looking for the cheat code, right? The best way to do that is to find somebody who's going to teach me the actual business of selling real estate. I need to know how you're putting a contract together, how you're negotiating that contract, and just how you're frankly dealing with the client, how you're like people management during a transaction. I want to be able to see all of that.
I would also argue, if you went up to a top producer and you said, listen, I would love to be on your team for the next 12 months. I'll commit to working with you. I want to learn the business. And if there's an opportunity to continue working with you after that, great. But I'll commit 12 months to working my ass off to learn this business under your tutelage. I don't think you're going to have a lot of top producers that are going to say, get away from me, kid, you bother me.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be like, wow, this is an energetic person that's eager to learn. And most accomplished people love to share what they've learned. It's one of those strange things. Sometimes you look at somebody and you think they're untouchable, but if you talk to somebody who's very successful, they're almost always want to share and teach other people to be successful too, because they've gone through the ups and the downs, and they have the battle scars. And I think as humans, we want to help share our experiences to help other people.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's exactly the way you'd approach it.
I would also re-examine your motivations for being in the real estate industry, honestly, with a question like that. And no offense, right? Or actually, I don't care if you're offended, but
there's no attribution. We don't know who this is.
I don't know who this is.
Awesome.
But yeah, if you're coming into it and your first thought is money, 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 right? Like, there's no fast money in this industry. And the people who tell you there is are lying. And the people who are making big money did it because they put the sweat equity in and they worked hard. And so, you know, with a question like that, it kind of feels to me like you're maybe money driven, and I don't think there's long-term viability. Maybe I'm not saying you're definitely going to fail. I'm saying I feel like the probability is high.
Well, I would just say you're aiming towards the wrong goal. You're walking down the wrong path, and the road signs along the way are not going to be right, and you're not going to end up at a destination that you want to be at.
Ricardo, was that it?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well,
we did it.
We did it. Yeah. So, if you have more questions, is there actually, we're checking the YouTube videos and stuff like that for questions. So post them in the comments on the YouTube channel. It's the Marketing Trench. Go find it. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the Marketing Trench on YouTube, please do so. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers right now. If we do, then we can actually get a better vanity URL. Yeah. So please go like this video. If you're watching it, like it now, subscribe to our channel, and then, type any questions you have there. You can also reach any one of us, but I recommend trying to reach out to Ricardo Bueno first. If you go to ricardobueno.com, you can contact him there, send your questions in for Marketing Trench, or even just for him. He's a really great resource. And while you're there, you can subscribe to his authority newsletter. Ricardo, you want to talk about what you're doing over at ricardobueno.com?
You're awesome. You're such a great hype man. No, I got a weekly newsletter, email once or twice a week, and we just share strategies. So what's in our mind, what's working out in the field. Have a weekly podcast where I interview top agents and teams. Love for you guys to check it out. Just go to ricardobueno.com.
Yep, it's amazing.
You can check out past episodes of the podcast at marketingtrench.fm. That's where we've got everything going back to our initial founding kind of ideas, for control framework, and different philosophies that we have tackled over the last almost 2 years of doing this show. That I think will really help you lay the foundation. We talked, a lot of these questions sounded like they're coming from people who are kind of newer to the industry. And so I think one of the most helpful things you can do is architect a useful philosophy of real estate, right? And it sounds kind of falutin and high-minded and all this sort of thing, but really you just kind of want to have your wits about you as you're going into this thing. Mm-hmm. You're going to be bombarded with all sorts of offers and opportunities to spend your money on ready-made solutions to problems you might or might not actually have. And so you want to make sure that you've got you just got a real sense about you of what you should be aiming at, and what makes sense for you in terms of a spend and all the rest. It's the steady and regular worker who's going to win in the long run, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's most deceiving about this business is that you're going to get some, probably if you're a new agent, you're going to get some fast wins. Maybe your grandparents are selling, a friend or family, whatever. The first 1 or 2 or 3 might come really quickly to you, and you think, all right, look at these commission checks. This is how easy it is. But trust me, the people who are making money in this industry right now aren't just selling friends and family. Like, they are well outside of that tight sphere of influence into second and third order sort of spheres, friends of friends, or people that just found them through, the usual marketing channels that might not be connected to their sphere in any direct way at all. So just have that mindset about you. You can find Scott over at findmywayhome.com. Find My Way Home is a great resource for you, especially on the lending side. And then also I'm forgetting the name of the forbearancereport.com. Is that the website?
Forbearancereport.org. Yeah.
.org. So if you're a real estate agent and you're trying to wrap your head around the coming potential forbearance and foreclosure wave that's happening as a result of COVID, forbearancereport.org is a really, really great resource for you to kind of do that. And then also, if you are somebody who owns a property and you're in forbearance and you're trying to figure out what the next steps might look like for you, definitely check that site out. Is that a fair synopsis?
Yeah, we don't really talk so much about what's happening afterwards. It really is a resource for consumers that are in forbearance, and it's itemized by servicer. And there's a lot of great feedback on the servicers that consumers are having challenges getting in touch with customer service and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of really great user input on that, on how to navigate through that process. But there are definitely conversations that need to be had around people that aren't going to be able to successfully exit forbearance, and that should probably be another episode.
Yeah, actually, I would really love to talk with you about that, because I know that's something that's a lot of people are talking about, what's coming up with the forbearance. And if you're a new agent in Southern California and you need an escrow partner, I know a company. They're LighthouseEscrow.com is my company. I've got a really great team. All of my escrow officers have been in the industry for a long time. They've seen it all. They know it. and they can help you. And look, we are happy to answer questions about escrow, even if we're not currently working on an escrow with you. We want you to succeed. We want your clients to find their way home happily. So that's us. That's what we're about. And one of the most useful tools that you could point your friends and family that are interested in potentially buying or selling a house to is our closing cost calculator. It's free. It's available about midway down on our homepage. Don't have to sign up for anything. Don't have to give us any of your information. Don't need to download an app. None of that nonsense. Just go plug and play information. We give you straight estimates right there on the website. So that's all of it. And I think that's it. So anything else, guys?
No.
Awesome.
Thanks
Until next
for
time,
listening.
this has been the Marketing Trench.
Yeah.